Here's 12 Sports.
Welcome to the latest episode of Double OT. It's just Maury and I on this Tuesday as we tape this. Rosie's off today. What's up, Maury?
What's going on?
How we doing?
Much. Good. Championship weekend coming up.
Championship weekend, yeah. That's a lot of fun games.
Yeah.
All good quarterbacks.
Great quarterbacks.
I hate the years when the AFC Championship, NFC, there's always like someone random. Like the year the Pats played the Rams, it was like, Goff? No. I was rooting for the Breeze.
He wasn't
Brady
established
matchup.
yet?
Yeah. All four of these guys are bona fide studs. And I like the old guys in the NFC, young guys in the AFC. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Tom Brady, of course, is in his 14th championship game, which is an absurd stat because he's only played 19 full seasons where he's been healthy. So about 75% of the time, he's getting you to the title game. Bill Belichick's at home. So the question is, what is the status of the scoreboard? And it's pretty one-sided if you just take into account this year. But obviously, Brady's going to play beyond this year, and Belichick's going to coach beyond this year. So in that prism, the scoreboard right now, and how do you think this whole thing ends on the scoreboard?
Well, I think if Brady wins a Super Bowl this year, I think he will be the winner regardless of what Bill does, I think, in the future. I think knowing that you can step away from the culture that you were in since the time you were drafted and go and win a Super Bowl your first year. Coronavirus pandemic, no offseason, no preseason, brand new teammates, brand new coaches. I think that would be quite impressive, even if Bill Belichick were to be able to get back to a Super Bowl and win another, just on the sheer fact that he goes somewhere else and wins in year one.
So right now, obviously, it's a blowout. It's a Super Bowl 51 Falcons-Pats blowout because Brady is being adorned, the savior and the hero for the Tampa Bay Bucks. The team that, did you know statistically, was the losingest franchise in all of the four major sports by win percentage? So he gets them there, and Belichick obviously putters along to a 7-9 season. So right now, it's completely one-sided. Yeah. I agree that if Brady wins the Super Bowl this year, I would think Belichick would have to win one in, let's say, the next 5 years to sort of even it out. Because you could say, all right, Bill let Tom go, sort of regrouped, got back to the promised land, and eventually won one and remained sustainable as a franchise at their tier. But if Brady wins one and Belichick just sort of lives in this 10-6, 11-5, never solves the QB position for the duration of how long he coaches for, then I think it's Brady overall. But I think what's indisputable is that he gave up on Brady too soon. Now, the complexities of their relationship and why he left, we can talk about that for days. But I don't think Brady, with the Pats roster this year, does much more than he did last year. Probably less because the team wasn't as good. But if Bill had just believed that Brady could play at this level into this age and built the roster around that, I think obviously they'd be in a better position than they are now. So at the end of the day, Bill just didn't believe, because we hadn't seen it ever, a player like Brady could play this well into his age 43 season. So
I think another key to all this is in the era that we're living in, this super team era, I think it's easier for a player to have quicker success when they move on than a coach right now, especially the way that Bill Belichick spends money and prioritizes defense. So I think it was easy for Tom Brady to go somewhere to pick out a place that was already established, that had weapons. He brought Antonio Brown, LaShawn McCoy wanted to sign, and Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul. I mean, these are stud veterans, all-pro guys that were already on the team and or wanted to come. Leonard Fournette, I mean, he just has an abundance of talent on both sides of the ball, and we saw that come to fruition again in the Saints game. So it's a lot easier for the player to win right away, and I think that's why you need to give Belichick a little bit of a grace period to sort of restock, retool, and hopefully get back to that level.
And the Patriots are going to be better because they have a ton of money. They're going to hopefully get some of these guys back that opted out. They have pick number 15, but they need to solve the quarterback position. If somehow Bill doesn't solve the quarterback position post-Brady, after we know the statistics, one playoff win all time without Tom Brady, dating back to his years in Cleveland, then he's got big issues. But at the end of the day, Brady, it's too easy, and I know Ben Volen of the Boston Globe did this. Why don't the Pats have Tom Brady again? It's easy to just say that and not think of all the details involved. That, let's say, we know things got a little messy, post-Eagles Super Bowl. So that year, he reportedly, according to the book, The Dynasty, wanted out the year after the Eagles Super Bowl, and they sweetened his deal, and he ended up staying 2 more years, one of which he won the Super Bowl. So their relationship was so frayed that I don't even think if Brady was still here right now that we'd be seeing the same success we'd had seen. So their relationship had sort of run its course. So it's easy to be like, oh, if Brady was on this Patriots team. But the other thing is, and we can go on to talking about the games this weekend, is Brady was good Sunday. He wasn't great.
Correct.
All his scoring drives were on short fields. His stats weren't overly tremendous. And the Saints showed to be a flawed team, and that Drew Brees can't really throw the ball over 20 yards. So, and then the first game in the playoffs, they beat the Washington football team. So it's not like Brady has been carrying this team on his back per se. I think it's more of his leadership, winning culture mentality, the buy-in that's helping the Bucs.
Yeah, no doubt. It's that aura. It's that playoff mentality, knowing that you're taking a group of guys that have never had any success, never been in the playoffs before, and all of a sudden you have them in the NFC Championship game. So they beat some subpar teams in the regular season to end. Obviously, Washington and New Orleans have been underwhelming so far, but if he wins the Super Bowl, he'll have deserved it to go on the road to beat a Green Bay and then potentially this new upstart team in the Bills or the reigning Super Bowl champs in the Chiefs.
And so, of all Brady's paths through the playoffs, I think going through, sure, an old Breeze, but a Breeze, Rodgers, and potentially Mahomes would be the toughest gauntlet, because those are three bona fide Hall of Famers, and I think we can comfortably say that about Mahomes, even though he's 20-something.
Yes.
So let's talk about these games. Obviously, it's Bucs and Saints in the NFC Championship game. Bills, Chiefs, both home teams are 3-point favorites. Let's start in the AFC, since we were just talking about Brady. It appears Mahomes is going to be fine in terms of the head issue.
Right.
Maybe it's even his ankle that's more of a concern for the Chiefs. Assuming a healthy Mahomes, what do you like in this game?
I think the key is the way that Aaron Rodgers looked after they beat the Rams, where his jersey was spotless. That has to be the key for the Chiefs. They can't run plays like the one he had and where he got the concussion and comes out. I think, when you look at it, I guess you have to go with the Chiefs. They're at home. They're the number one seed. They've got the most weapons in the NFL and two unguardable pieces in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. But if the Bills are to create a turnover or two, win the turnover battle, I think, depending on the pass rush and the way that they can create pressure on the opposing quarterback, they can cause some trouble for Kansas City. I don't think this is a Bills team that's going to come in scared. I think this is a Bills team that believes in themselves. Sean McDermott does, Brian Daboll, and the entire coaching staff. So I think it'll be a great game, but you just got to go Chiefs end of the day.
They played each other earlier in this year, right?
And in Buffalo.
And the Chiefs won. I think the Bills are a worthy opponent. I think they're going to play well. I still like the Chiefs because of this is their third straight AFC Championship game. They have that championship pedigree. And Andy Reid, it's almost like he's playing with house money. Going for it on 4th and 1 with, why am I forgetting his name now?
Chad Henne?
Anything is possible. Chad Henne, who had never played in a playoff game. I think there's just this confidence and aura, this championship confidence with the Chiefs right now. And like you said, even if Buffalo comes out gangbusters, gets a couple turnovers, if the Chiefs are down 10 in the fourth quarter, we see them move down the field so quickly offensively. And then how about when the momentum swayed in the Cleveland game, their defense coming up big. Obviously, everyone's going to assume it's the Chiefs' offense that wins their game, and rightfully so. But I just like the Chiefs. I think they've been the best team all year. But it would be cool if the Bills got to a Super Bowl for the first time since the 90s, and if it set up a Brady versus Bills Super Bowl, because we know how one-sided that's been over the years. So let's go to the NFC side. Packers and Bucs. This was one-sided when they played this year, which is sort of, I remember watching the game it was Sunday Night Football, right? I think it was either a 425 or a Sunday Night Football game, and being like, what? Because the Saints, the Bucs lost a lot of games to good teams this year. They lost to the Saints a couple times. I think they lost to the Rams. They lost to, I guess the Bears aren't a good team, a playoff team, but I don't know what happened in that game. But the Packers, they're the one seed for a reason. It feels like Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he's playing the best football of his career, maybe his MVP season or the last time they won the Super Bowl, but it seems like he's enjoying himself out there. Obviously, the run game was a huge benefit to them on Sunday. I was just looking at the stats. They had 170 yards on the ground. So they're playing well. They're the one seed for a reason. It's in Lambeau. Brady's not afraid of the cold. He's played here for 20 years, but I think it's sort of a factor. Tampa Bay, I mean, you're in a division with Carolina, a domed New Orleans team, They are in warm weather in Tampa, and who's the last team in
And
the
a
NFC
dome
South?
Falcons
In
squad.
Falcons.
Yeah.
Have they played any not many cold weather games this year?
No, Chicago was early in the year when they lost. So
I
don't
mean,
believe
that's
they
just
played.
one of those factors. But like some former player was saying this recently, like when you're on the road and it's cold, it's almost, and there's no fans, it's almost worse because it's like you don't have like the aura and excitement and hype of that game to build you up when you're freezing sitting there on the bench. So if they get down, I don't know, maybe Green Bay sort of just seizes on that. But I think the Bucs have been – the Washington football win wasn't that great, as we were just talking about. I think in hindsight, the Saints were probably an overrated division team based on the limitations from Drew Brees. But the Saints feel like – I mean, the Bucs feel like everything's sort of coming together right now. And they're sort of adopting a little bit of the Brady Pats last Super Bowl winning team. They really sort of committed to the run with Leonard Fournette there. So if that can be not your bread and butter, but complement, because I think they were too pass happy for a while this year. In the cold weather, if they can commit to Fournette, get some play action, and we saw how Brady spread it out. I think Cameron Brate was his leading receiver on Sunday with 4 catches. Then I think their offense will be in pretty good shape. I keep going back and forth with this. My heart tells me Brady's just going to pull it out, but I think I'm going to pick the Packers. But I'll say they won't cover. I'll say they squeak it out by a point.
Sure. I got to go with the Bucs.
Okay.
I don't know why. I mean, I don't know if you buy into the whole Rodgers is the more talented quarterback, Brady's the clutcher quarterback, the more accomplished quarterback. But I just think depending on how well this Tampa Bay defense can play, and I'm not expecting them to have another 4 turnovers and be +4 in that category, but if they can have 1 or 2, I think that will be the difference, because I think both offenses kind of cancel themselves out. I think both quarterbacks do, the weapons do. I think it's going to come down to defense and special teams. I think it's going to be fairly low scoring, a game in the 40s. But I have a hard time believing that Tom Brady's going to go there and lose. For some reason, I don't know why, but I haven't been high on the Packers like I brought up a couple weeks ago. I haven't been high on the Packers for the last couple of years, and obviously they've surprised and they've done really well for the franchise and the lack of weapons outside of a Devontae Adams and an Aaron Jones. But
who was the guy, Lazard, that was getting all
Alan Lazard? They have Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I mean, it's similar to the teams that Brady's had in his career. You know, he's had like a good one, and then like just a solid 2, 3, or 4, where if you're outside of that market and you're not watching them on a week-to-week basis, you don't know these guys.
I do not feel good about it. Should I switch my pick to the Bucs right now? I'll keep Packers. That'll be a reverse jinx, so Brady wins. All right, moving on to college basketball. PC Friars. We got Steve's in my ear. I forgot about the McDaniels.
Oh yeah, McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels. All right, I'll let you take the stage here. A rumored favorite to coach your Philadelphia Eagles. I guess first, do you think it'd be a decent fit, and how big of a loss would it be for the Pats, who are already in transition?
Both sides in this are just. I mean, they're just lost. I mean, Josh McDaniels had the blowout in Indianapolis 2 years ago. The Eagles are just a mess of an organization right now. They don't have a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, or head coach. I don't think it'd be a great fit between the two. However, if they do offer Josh McDaniels, he has to take it. It's going to be his last time in potentially getting an opportunity to be a head coach once again. And then would it be a big loss for the Patriots? I'm not convinced that it would. I think Bill Belichick has his hands in too many things that it would. I think they can bring back certain guys from past systems, whoever that may be. Bill Belichick's coaching tree is pretty immense. So I don't think it would be a big loss for the Patriots, and I just don't think he's the best option for the Eagles. I know a lot of our fans and viewers aren't Eagles fans, but I don't think he would be the best. I said it I think I said it a year or two ago when we were on the old set. I just don't see Josh McDaniels ever becoming a head coach again. I don't think you can establish the Bill Belichick culture. You have to branch out and be your own person, like a Brian Flores. He brought a culture to Miami. He didn't try to recreate Bill Belichick's success.
Right.
I think we've seen a lot of that in his former assistants, whether it's Matt Patricia, right on down the line. They try to bring the Patriot way elsewhere. You can do that to some extent, but you have to win to then establish that Patriot way.
It's tough to be a drill sergeant when you're losing. When you're winning and have Super Bowl rings to shine, then it's easier. And we should mention that Gerard Mayo interviewed for the job too. Whether it's a good fit in Philly, I don't know. I mean, his Broncos job, that's like over a decade ago now, or around a decade. He had Tim Tebow, for crying out loud, and Brandon Marshall. So I think he deserves another shot. I agree. This may be his last go-around because the teams that hire guys quickly, he wasn't even on their radar. And now it's sort of like the musical chairs of Houston needs a coach. They're a mess, and the Eagles are sort of a mess. They need a coach. Salary cap issues, I was reading, too.
Oh, big time.
Big time salary cap issues. What do you do at quarterback? But if you like Wentz, then he's, if he can get right, he has a lot of talent. As for the Pats, I do think it's a big loss only because if it was still Tom Brady here, I think Brady was sort of a de facto offensive coordinator in his knowledge of the system. He would have been fine. Belichick doesn't really have anyone behind McDaniels. There were years where it was like, all right, Bill O'Brien will fill in, or maybe Chad O'Shea, who ended up with the Dolphins. I don't know who's in the pecking order on the offensive side of the football. Like, let's say Gerard Mayo leaves, he has Steven Belichick right now. Or, when Flores left, he sort of had Mayo and Steven Belichick waiting in the wings. I don't know who would take over. And by all accounts, McDaniels has sort of handled the offense, especially with Brady, Belichick not having a DC for the last couple of years. He's sort of been focusing on the defense. So if McDaniels leaves, does he hire someone outside of the organization, someone he trusts? Like, there were rumors about bringing O'Brien back. He obviously went to Alabama. So I think from a replacement standpoint, then again, you're getting a new quarterback. You just sort of scrap the whole Patriot system and sort of start anew.
Right.
So that's something to consider too. So I think just the timing of this year specifically would be a loss to the Patriots. All right, let's do college hoops now. PC has the toughest schedule in the country this week. At number 11 Creighton, at number 3 Villanova. Man, it seems like they at least need a split here, right, to get their season jump-started after losing 3 straight.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you lose to teams you should beat. When you're in the Big East, you don't need to beat any of the top-ranked teams, the first or second or third place team in the league, if you can take care of, like we talked about last week. At worst is a split against all the other teams, and then you sweep all the teams you take care of. Their net ranking is good enough to keep you afloat, bring you to the NCAA tournament. But when you lose to a Butler, you lose to a Xavier, you lose to a Marquette, the best you can do against those 3 now is split. You can't sweep any of those middle-tier Big East teams. You're going to need one. Luckily, they have a little bit of time off from their last game until Wednesday at Creighton. But who knows about Jared Bynum's status? If Jared Bynum can't go, I just don't see them winning either one of these games. And Ed Cooley said it himself. He said, we're good enough to compete. We're there until the end. Yeah. But in the final 4 minutes, if you don't have your point guard and you're undermanned and you're on the road,
right,
it's hard to beat these teams. And I see them going 0-2 if Jared Bynum's unhealthy. And it's a shame for a PC team that got off to a great start.
Yeah. I didn't realize at the time when Bynum got hurt how detrimental that would be to the team. I guess I should have. He's your starting point guard, but it's been too much on the shoulders of David Duke, and really they're still needing that third scorer we talk about every week outside of he and Watson. So I guess the silver lining is that they went down to the Horn with Creighton at Alumni Hall 2.5 weeks ago. So you can play with these guys, and you just hope that it goes your way. But it almost feels like PC needs to learn to win in these closing moments because so many of them haven't gone their way that they need to get over. I think their best chance is beating Creighton and then losing to Nova. Nova has only played 9 games because they were in that COVID pause.
I think they're supposed to play tonight, which is Tuesday, but they haven't played since December 23rd, I believe.
So they've lost just once. So big week for PC. I mean, listen, if they get 5 straight losses, where do things go from there? It's sort of bad timing on the schedule, right, to get these teams. It would have been nice if they could have played Georgetown Saturday, but such is life during the pandemic in college basketball. As for Rhode Island, they're at Duquesne tomorrow. They just beat George Mason. What a second half. If they can channel that second half, it was tied. You were there on Saturday. I think they'll be pretty good. What did you see in the second half that really lit them?
They just didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
And I asked David Cox that postgame. I think it's as simple as when you don't turn the ball over, everything else is taken care of. You can play defense, you can play offense. The defense will spark the offense. There's more energy on the bench, and you maximize more opportunities. So I think as long as they don't turn the ball over more than, I'll say their magic number is about 12 or 13 times.
Okay.
They average about 16 right now. They need to bring that way down But they're talented enough to be a top 5 team. They play Duquesne, George Washington, and LaSalle, all teams that are below them right now in the standings. Similar to PC, if they can beat all the teams below them and maybe win a game or two above the team, against a couple teams that are at the top of the league, then they should be a top 5, top 6 team. Right now, they're 7th in the conference, and they were picked 6th for the year. So they're right about where everybody felt they would be beginning of the season.
I think they have as much talent as any team in the A-10. It's sort of just putting it all together. And like you said, I don't think there's one team in the A-10 that sort of stands out. It's not as big of a drop-off. Like, you don't have any nationally ranked teams like PC does in their gauntlet this week. I think can they play, besides the turnovers, can they just piece, like everyone coaches says, 4-minute blocks right throughout the game? Can they just play consistently? I mean, that's a challenge for every team, but I feel like they've gone in spurts throughout this year where they played really well or just been terrible or somewhere in between. And so I think if they play well at Duquesne, that can sort of be the springboard here. I haven't seen Duquesne play. Are they any good?
I mean, I think just what you know about Keith Dambrod is a tough defensive team. So you're on the road, no fans, like you mentioned in the NFL games. It's hard to kind of get yourself going. It could be a potential trap game, coming off of a good performance against George Mason. So it could ignite them. Yeah. I mean, if you go and beat a Duquesne team on the road, that's always feisty. Regardless, you got to wipe their record off the board. Always a feisty squad. So, if they can win that, then hopefully you can win 3-4 in a row, and then you've got a tough couple games after this.
If Antoine Walker can do what he did for parts of that George Mason game for you, and then like DJ Johnson can get hot from 3, and then if out of the senior guards you get consistent play, this is all a lot of ifs. And then Mikel Mitchell has 20 points again.
The definition of a 500 squad. That's what it is.
All right, I think that'll do it for this edition of Double OT. Full episode on WPRI.com and to download as a podcast. We'll see you next week. We'll have a Super Bowl by then. Super Bowl set.